So social anxiety is a fear of being negatively judged or evaluated by other people. So we worry that we're going to say or do something to embarrass or humiliate ourselves. And we're very concerned about how we come across to others and being negatively judged. So this might mean that we're worried about doing job interviews or engaging in public speaking. We might be fearful of engaging in conversation with the checkout chick, or we might be fearful of interacting with our children's friends' parents. We might dread going to little athletics with our children because we're going to have to stand around talking to other parents. We might be fearful of going to parent-teacher interviews because we've got to talk to the teachers. So just fairly routine day-to-day interactions, such as going into a shop and having to deal with the shop assistant, could be something that creates stress, and maybe we hate engaging in small talk with the neighbours because we've got this fear of being negatively judged or evaluated. So we could be worried that people think we're boring, stupid, incompetent, not good at small talk. And, this can restrict, how well we function at work. This can restrict our social interactions. And I suppose this can impact on our families, because when our partner wants us to go to one of their work functions or to have dinner with their friends or go to a party, we don't want to go, so we might avoid going altogether. Or if we do go, we grumble about it, and we may be pestering them to leave early so that we can stop feeling stressed. And also, I suppose it can affect our children in that perhaps we're avoiding doing things that they want us to do because we're feeling anxious. So what can be done about it? Again, you can see a psychologist for help with this, and whatever anxiety condition you have, or whether you have depression, psychology is now Medicare rebatable. So if you go to your doctor, you can ask if you can do what's called a mental health care plan and get a referral to a psychologist, and that entitles you to 10 individual and 10 group sessions per year. So that's a pretty good number of sessions that you can have rebated by Medicare. So you just need to discuss that with your doctor to get that organised. So you can see a psychologist to get help with this issue. So basically, we can't overcome our social fears by avoiding them. So we need to think about, what are the situations that I'm avoiding because I feel anxious? We may develop what's called a graded exposure hierarchy. So we think about what makes it more difficult or less difficult for me to engage in these situations. Is it the number of people, how well I know them, whether I'm sitting or standing, whether it's formal or informal, if I know it's going to go for a long duration or whether it's going to be a short interaction. So you need to think about, what is it about this situation that pushes my buttons? What makes it more difficult or less difficult for me? And how can I start working on it? You need to think about, what are your safety behaviours? What are the things that you do to hide the fact that you're anxious? So are you trying to hide blushing, sweating, shaking, things like that? So we need to identify these safety behaviours. When I'm talking to people, I'm worried that they're going to think I'm stupid, so I say as little as possible. That's my safety behaviour. So saying very little, people aren't going to know what you think. So, they won't think, probably not going to think you're stupid because you're not saying anything, but that can backfire in that people might think that you don't like them. So they won't know whether or not you're stupid, but they could mistakenly infer that you don't like them because you're not talking to them. So our safety behaviours can actually backfire on us. We're doing them because we don't want people to think badly of us, but they can lead to people forming other conclusions. Yeah, so quite often I have clients that come in and they're very well dressed, they're well spoken, they're good looking, they have very good jobs, and they might be anxious at parties, and they try very hard to hide the fact that they're anxious. And I might say to them, well, when you go to parties and you're feeling anxious, why don't you say to people, oh, I get a bit stressed at parties, I find meeting new people a bit stressful. And people are a bit reluctant to do that, but once they start doing it, quite often people come back to me and say, well, when I told people I was a bit anxious at parties, people said, oh, I never would have guessed that. I just thought you were up yourself. So, because they were being quiet and not talking, because they were nervous about how they were coming across, because they were so tall, good looking, well dressed and had a great job, it never occurred to people that they were anxious. They just thought that the person thought they were too good to speak to them. So, it's better to admit that you're a little bit anxious, than to be frantically trying to hide it, because people, may draw the wrong conclusion.